It's Jill with Astro Press. I'm going to be using a very serious kind of filter today, and that filter is no air, because I want to talk about the seriousness of Saturn. I want to use a kind of a serious filter today, because Saturn is the planet that is the taskmaster. And how do we work with our natal Saturn, by house or by sign or by angle? Well, first of all, you want to understand what Saturn is trying to help you accomplish. Yes, you heard me right. Accomplish. You see, it's about risk and reward with Saturn. What are you willing to risk to get the reward for? What are you willing to work at to reap the benefits from? It's like when these famous rock climbers scale El Capitan, Yosemite National Park, the mountains over there, the rocks. When they scale that mountain, they had to work their asses off to be in shape enough, to be trained enough to hike, to have all kinds of outdoor skills, whatever hiking and adventurous and climbers need. They had to have that skill set. They had to learn that skill set somehow. Then they had to learn how to sleep on the side of El Capitan before they could get to where their destinations are. And that's Saturn. Saturn says, what is it that you want? And are you willing to do the work? Because if you do the work, like the climbers of El Capitan, you're going to get rewarded, right? The climbers of they get rewarded. Sometimes they get a monetary reward. Sometimes they write a book after they've climbed it. Sometimes, whatever it is, there's some kind of reward that comes if you're willing to take the risk, if you're willing to take the action, if you're willing to invest the energy. Because I believe nothing comes to us if we're just sitting on our dead ass. I have to be honest, you guys. Nothing is going to come to you sitting on your dead ass. And so if you want something, if you have a big vision for yourself, you have dreams and ambitions, you've got to motivate yourself. You've got to encourage yourself. You've got to inspire yourself to get off your duff and take action. And so I'd like you to, sorry, I ate some popcorn earlier. I'd like you to look at your Saturn as someone who is actually trying to help you get off your butt and saying to you, if you are willing to do the work, there's going to be a reward. And are you willing to do the work? Now, Saturn is the modern day ruler of Capricorn energy and is the ruler of the midheaven, which is the toppest, the highest point in the chart, and is the ruler of the 10th house, the career. Anybody here who has a strong Saturn, that could be Saturn conjunct the rising sign, Saturn on the IC, Saturn on the descendant, Saturn on the midheaven, Saturn in Capricorn, Saturn in the 10th house, Saturn conjunct, like I said, the midheaven, Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Capricorn. If you have a strong Saturn or a strong Capricorn energy, you are the leaders in achievement, period. The world looks to you to lead the way. Now, I have a strong Saturn, everyone. And so I have been working for, I want to say, to be really honest with you, I've been doing Saturn since I came out of the womb. Because you have to remember, my early years, I was a figure skater. And I started ice skating at the age of 6. And that's when my discipline really started. If I get up at 5 in the morning to go ice skate, and then you go to school, then you go back to the rink, and you come home at 6 or 7, you help your parents with dinner, then you clean up, you do your chores, and you go to bed, and you repeat that. And so I've been doing Saturn my whole life. I know a lot about Saturn, and that's the truth. And so I know to make things happen, it's up to me. And so Saturn in Aries, Saturn the first, is an energy about, do you have what it takes to be confident, to be secure with who you are? Do you have what it takes to be a professional athlete? What about a competitive athlete? Do you have what it takes to be number one? Do you have what it takes to be a leader? Do you have what it takes to get past your fear and make the first move? Because what is Aries energy? Aries is about, I am first. I compete. I'm athletic. I'm sexual. I'm confident. I'm going to make the first move. I'm a brave soul. Do you have what it takes? Saturn in Aries, Saturn in the first. That's what your Saturn is trying to ask you. Saturn in Aries, Saturn in the first. What about Saturn in the second? Saturn in Taurus. Well, do you have what it takes to make a lot of money this lifetime? Do you have what it takes to make a lot of wealth? Do you have what it takes to be generous? Do you have what it takes to save money? Do you have what it takes to understand money? Do you have what it takes to be in a Taurian mindset? Do you have what it takes to be in the Venusian industry? Taurus is ruled by Venus. Do you have what it takes to be Venusian? Only you know. What about Saturn in Gemini, Saturn in the third? Do you have what it takes to be a communicator, a writer, a teacher, a speaker, a listener, a reader, a social media person, a trainer, an orator, a publisher? Do you have what it takes to multitask? Saturn in Gemini, Saturn in the third is trying to teach you about communications this lifetime. So the sooner you get those down, the better. What about Saturn in the fourth? Saturn conjunct the IC. Well, you all know, many of you who have been with me for a couple of years, you know I carry this aspect. It sucks. Sorry, but it's true. This is an energy of, are you willing to be the caretaker in your family environment? Are you willing to do the work to be the caretaker, to be the nurturer, to be the person that makes everybody feel loved and cared for and nurtured? And I had that role early years for me. I was always kind of the caretaker for my mother, my sister, my stepfather. It's not fair, but it is what it is. I was the one that was always loving and kind and trying to be helpful to people. And unfortunately, it wasn't always reciprocated. And not only was I the nurturer, I was also the person that had to do a lot of chores and tasks in the home environment. So Saturn in the fourth, Saturn in conjunct the IC. This is not, I don't think, this is really an easy Saturn. Unless you are okay with, having all that discipline bestowed upon you as a youngster. And what is the reward for that? Well, the reward for that is, as you get older and more mature, people will look at you as a very loving, kind person and want you around, because you learn about caretaking. You learn about the family need. You also learn, you have to work your ass off to get any kind of love or nurturing. I grew up where, if you didn't get straight A's, you didn't get much. I was skating. I was landing axles. I was training to be an Olympic skater. That's how good I was, everyone. And I didn't always get a lot of recognition for that from my family. I think if I did, I probably would have kept going. And if I came home with anything less than a straight A, there was nothing It was kind of a cold-hearted upbringing with my mother and sister especially. My stepfather, thank God, he saved the day. But my mother and sister were horrific people. Very unhappy, very jealous people I had to deal with every effing day. I'm sorry, folks. I just have to be honest. Anyway, Saturn in the 5th, Saturn in Leo. This is an energy of how bad do you want to be in the spotlight? For those of you, and I know many of you here, want to be famous. You want to be actors or actresses. You want to be in the spotlight. You want to be in the limelight. You want to be an entertainer. You need to know Saturn has your back if you're willing to do the work. Do what it takes. Now, you know how it is to break into Hollywood. Most of you who are actors and actresses, you know how competitive it is. You know how cutthroat it can be. And I'm from California. I'm from the Hollywood. I'm from that area, part of town. And I know how cutthroat it is. And I know that, people who get in the industry have worked their ass off forever and ever and ever and ever and will do everything and will go, I'm telling you, they will do everything it takes to get into acting or be in the movies. And so that's what Saturn in the 5th, Saturn in Leo is saying. You want the attention and the spotlight on you? How are you going to make it happen? What kind of work? What are you going to teach yourself? What kind of obstacles are you willing to overcome to get there? What about Saturn in Virgo, Saturn in the 6th? This is all about having a routine, because Saturn in Virgo likes a routine. They like to get up and have their coffee at 8 o'clock. They like to take their shower at 9, get dressed, go to work, come home at 5, and repeat it every single day. You do best on a schedule. Saturn is trying to get your attention to get structure, to get a schedule in your life. Even if you're an entrepreneurial and you're not working out in the world, get up at a certain time and get a routine. You'll probably feel better as well. This is also an energy of organization. How organized are you? How much of service are you to other people? This is also energy of giving the shirt off your back. Saturn is paying attention to you. Are you a nice person? Do you help others? Do you volunteer? Do you help your family? Are you just a nice person out in the world and open the door for people, or help an elderly person get their groceries in? That's this Saturnian message here. Saturn in Virgo, Saturn in the 6th. This is an energy of healers and nurses and doctors and people that help other people. Saturn in Virgo is also about frugality. Do you like to spend money? But Saturn is like, no, you're not supposed to. You need to save. That's Saturn in Virgo, Saturn in the 6th. Work, 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 work. Work and routine is important to me. What about Saturn in the 7th, or Saturn conjunct the descendant? This is all about, do you have what it takes to have relationships? Do you have what it takes to be married? What does that take, folks, to have relationships, one-to-one relationships? Well, you got to invest the time. You got to make the time. You got to be out in the world to meet people, to date, to fall in love, to get married. Do you have what it takes? However you are approaching committed relationships, whether you are in one or you're not in one, do you have what it takes? Are you willing to invest in whatever it takes to get one? And in today's world, in 2023, lots of people are out there on dating apps. Do you want to be on a dating app? Are you willing to be on a dating app without feeling like this sucks or this is embarrassing or this isn't for me, or whatever it is for you to have that relationship, that commitment? Because that's the tasks of Saturn. What are you willing to do to have that marriage partner? What sacrifices are you willing to take? What are you willing to do around the subject of fairness? That means you win and I win. If you have Saturn in the 7th or Saturn in Libra and you're all about me, 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 you're going to get some big wake-up calls from Saturn, because that's not how Saturn plays. The 7th house is about you and me. If you win, I win. And that's the way it is. Saturn in the 7th, Saturn conjunct the descendant. This bodes well for being a great attorney, a great lawyer, a great public persona, someone who's about fairness in the world. Now, what about Saturn in Scorpio or Saturn in the 8th? This is about, do you have what it takes to dive deep, to uncover the answers? This is like deep psychoanalysis energy. You just don't go to one therapy session and are cured. You got to go hundreds of times, sometimes. Are you willing to do the work to transform whatever it is you need to transform in your life? Have you been struggling with addictions? Have you been struggling with anything that you just can't seem to get in check? Saturn in the 8th, Saturn in Scorpio says you got to dive deep and you got to keep going, and ultimately you're going to get there. To me, Saturn in the 8th is like a person who's been trying to maybe lose weight. Maybe they've been trying to lose weight their whole life and have felt challenged by it, that, nothing seems to be working. But then one day it does seem to be working. That's Saturn in the 8th. Saturn in Scorpio. Do you have what it takes to be in a power position? Because when you become transformative, you are in a power position and you learn about power that way. Power in the world, working with powerful people, is not always an easy thing. And so you may find also, those of you with Saturn in Scorpio or Saturn in the 8th, that you've had to work hard to get into a position of power, or you've had to work around powerful people, and it wasn't always easy. Now, Scorpio rules taxes, debt, the IRS, listen to me, the IRS, sex, other people's money, forensics, and death and dying. And so you could have lessons and you could have all kinds of Saturnian things happen to you around these areas, because that is Saturn in Scorpio, Saturn in the 8th. Do you have what it takes to deal with Scorpio things, Scorpio people, places, and things? What about Saturn in the 9th, Saturn in Sag? Do you have what it takes to get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD, a doctorate, a JD, a lawyer degree? Do you have what it takes to be a motivational speaker? Do you have what it takes to learn and stay in school and study and keep studying until you get to where you want to be? Do you have what it takes to travel the world? Do you have what it takes to be bilingual? You only speak English? Well, do you have what it takes to speak English and French? Oh, you only speak French? Do you have what it takes to speak French and Italian? Oh, you only speak Italian? Do you have what it takes to speak Italian and Vietnamese? Do you have what it takes? This is also a very lucky energy. This is a lucky placement. Luck is with you, those of you with Saturn in Sagittarius or Saturn in the 9th. Luck is always with you. And this is also a very wealthy area, having Sagittarius. Sagittarius rules kings and queens and wealth and good fortune. What about Saturn in the 10th or Saturn conjunct the midheaven? Well, as I mentioned, this is, you are the leaders, period. What else can we say? You know about discipline, you know about work, you keep your commitments, you'll do whatever it takes to make it happen, you will do whatever it takes to get a win, you will do what it takes. You have the grit and determination, period. You can do any job you want. Chances are you're gonna want to be a taskmaster or a leader. And if you have a strong Saturn with Saturn in the 10th or Capricorn, you may not be happy just being on the sidelines. You may not be happy taking orders from other people. So you need to look at that and ask yourself, can I take orders from other people, or do I have to be the person in charge? What about Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn in the 11th? Do you have what it takes to be a humanitarian? Do you have what it takes to change the world? Like Steve Jobs did with the iPhone. Like what goes on in Silicon Valley. Like what goes on with the people of the world and the minds of the world and the scientists of the world who create brilliant ideas and brilliant products to bring to the world to change the game for all of us in a positive way. Those people that are environmentally conscious, the people that are conscious about fuels and gasoline, the people that are conscious with food. It's about consciousness. It's about, looking after the entire world, not just one person, not just you. It's about looking at what can you do for the greater good of society. Great placement for scientists, engineers, anybody who is about forward thinking, thinking outside of the box. This is also a great placement for, anybody who works with humanitarian causes, anybody who works with large groups and can persuade large groups, anybody with scientific brilliance, engineering brilliance, just a brilliant mind that wants to change the world for the better. Anybody who is willing to go against the norm. All your friends go right and you're like, no, I'm going left because this is what I need to do. Because what you're doing by going right, it's not working anymore. We've got to change the game. So I'm either going to go left or maybe I'm going to go like a zigzag. I don't know. But this course is not working. What about Saturn in Pisces or the 12th? This is the house, right? This is the house of secrets. This is the house of impasse. This is the house of rose-colored glasses. Now, these aren't rose-colored glasses. These are my readers. I'm going to put them on just to show you. Think of them being like sunglasses. The rose-colored glass effect is I have glasses on because I'm not really interested in dealing with the reality of the world, because the reality of the world is much too painful for me to endure. And I'm just not comfortable with it. Do I really have to be disciplined to be a musician? Do I really have to be a taskmaster to be an artist? Do I really have to have a lot of pictures taken of me and show up for work to be a fashion model? Do I really have to work at being a massage therapist? I just want to heal the world. Saturn in the 12th. I want to heal the world is the Pisces energy. And Saturn is saying, well, you have tasks that you need to accomplish to do that. And Saturn in the 12th is a discipline that goes into places that most people cannot go into. When a musician goes into a music studio, you and I can't go in there, right? Unless we're friends with the person who's doing the audition, or, the musician. When someone is going to go and do some modeling gigs, you and I can't necessarily go there, whether, having their photos taken, changing into different outfits. When a patient has to go to the hospital to see a nurse or a doctor, that's the 12th house behind the scenes. Again, you and I, we don't get to just have access to any hospital and go see the people that are not well. That's the energy Saturn of the 12th house. The Saturn of the 12th house is that, do you have the discipline? Do you have the discipline to go into the 12th house? Because you may not want to have the discipline. You may not want to deal with the discipline, because remember, Pisces likes to be kind of in rose-colored glass mode. Do you blame them? The world is very painful to Pisces energy. The world has a lot of horrific people in it. according to Pisces energy. The world can be cruel according to Pisces energy. So those of you with Saturn in Pisces, Saturn in the 12th, I need to remind you, you need to encourage yourself and you need to do the work. You need to make the commitments just like the rest of the signs and houses so that you can show the world that you truly are a healer. Okay, everyone, I just talked about how to work with your Saturn by sign and house or angle. I hope you find this information helpful, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I love you all. Like and subscribe and share my content so I can make more videos like this. Bye for now.